Before I get started with the story, let me give a shout out to DJ in Discord for sending this story to me. And this is an update story to something I actually talked about a couple months ago involving this man right here whose name is Kermit Warren. Now, before I actually get into the update, let me just give you a little bit of a backstory. So basically, this man's name is Kermit Warren, who is out of New Orleans, Louisiana. He basically was saving up some money in order to start his own business. It says that he was saving up money for years, I think dating back since 2001. And he basically racked up in like over $30,000. Well, one day he ended up going to the airport. I guess he was about to travel somewhere and he had a lot of money on him. I think about all the money that he had saved up. And all of a sudden, he got, pulled to the side because they had suspected something about him and like why was he carrying those wads of cash. Now I will say this before I go any further, I don't think that was the smartest thing for him to do, was carry that much cash on him. But anyway, he was pulled to the side and they basically accused him of having what they said, I believe, was to be illegal funds. I think drug money. And the money was ended up being confiscated from him. And he was basically telling them, like, look, this is not drug money or anything like that. You're making it up just to take my money. And I think they actually had proof. He had proof to say that this wasn't, it wasn't drug money. And I think they even found out that it wasn't drug money, but they still never gave him his money back. So they were basically holding his funds that he had saved up for years for his business. They basically holding it hostage. Well, the update that has come down recently in this article that I'm reading from was posted on October 29th, 2021, says that he actually won his legal battle over the money that was seized from DEA agents. So I'm going to go ahead and read what it's talking about and seeing what the results were. Kermit Warren, an out-of-work shoeshine man from New Orleans, was carrying nearly $30,000 in cash through the airport in Columbus, Ohio last November when federal drug agents stopped him and began asking questions. Warren was returning home with his life savings after the purchase of a truck fell through. He had a one-way plane ticket, no luggage, and he gave some shaky answers about himself and the cash, leading the agents to suspect that it was drug money. Warren wasn't charged with a crime, but the agents seized all of his cash. With his savings gone and the COVID pandemic depriving him of steady work, the longtime church deacon barely scraped by. He said he wasn't even able to buy his 7 grandchildren Christmas gifts. This last year has truly been a nightmare for me, said Warren, age 58. But this week he received good news. Federal prosecutors agreed to return all of his money and dismiss the case according to a settlement agreement signed Thursday and obtained by NBC News. I feel like they should have gave him some extra funds for his pain and suffering. It gives me a great amount of joy and peace, Warren said. What happened to me should never happen to anybody in this world. Thousands of people are stopped and stripped of their money each year by U.S. law enforcement under a process known as civil asset forfeiture. The controversial practice allows the government to seize people's property even without filing criminal charges if it is suspected of being linked to criminal activity. Supporters of civil forfeiture argue that it's an essential law enforcement tool against drug traffickers who are known to use cars and planes to ship large amounts of cash around the country. Critics say it's routinely used against innocent people and disproportionately impacts, these are the words that they're about to say, people of color. Those are their words, not mine. Challenging a civil forfeiture can be a long and costly affair, leading many to walk away from items such as cash and cars. Warren won his case with the help of lawyers from the Virginia-based nonprofit Institute for Justice. We are relieved that Kermit is getting his money back, but we're also very upset that he was left destitute for an entire year for no good reason due to the callous, profit-driven actions of the DEA and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Ohio, said Dan Albin, a senior attorney at the Institute for Justice. Kermit's case highlights how the federal government abuses civil forfeiture. It seizes cash on the flimsiest of pretexts, traveling with cash at an airport, and effectively forces people to prove their own innocence to get their money back. A spokeswoman for the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Southern District of Ohio confirmed the settlement agreement but provided no further comment. The DEA did not respond to a request for comment. The Institute for Justice filed a class action suit against the DEA and Transportation Security Administration in January 2020, alleging that the agencies routinely violate airport travelers' constitutional rights by confiscating their money without probable cause. The plaintiffs in the suit include a Massachusetts woman who had more than $80,000 seized at the Pittsburgh airport as she was returning home with her parents' savings to open a new bank account. The money was returned 6 months later, but the suit remains ongoing. Over the past 2 decades, Kermit Warren stashed away whatever money he could from his job shining shoes, helping to make muffaletta sandwiches at the famed Central Grocery and cleaning his lower Ninth Ward neighborhood with FEMA following Hurricane Katrina. Warren lost his shoe shine job at the Roosevelt Hotel during the pandemic, prompting him to look for a tow truck to help him expand his side gig scrapping metal. He thought he had found the perfect vehicle, but when he and his son arrived in Ohio to purchase the truck, he realized it was more suited to hauling large construction equipment. When he and his son were back at the Columbus airport, a TSA screener spotted the cash but let Warren proceed. Shortly thereafter, DEA agents approached Warren and his son and began grilling them, court documents show. Warren struggled to explain the source of the money, federal prosecutors said in court papers. Under questioning, Warren panicked and falsely claimed to be a retired police officer. Yikes. He admitted soon after that he had misled them, according to the court documents. Drug-sniffing dogs were called in and they detected the presence of drugs on some of the money. A large percentage of currency in circulation is believed to contain drug residue. Warren's cash was seized, but he and his son were allowed to continue on their way without facing charges. As is customary in civil forfeitures, prosecutors filed a civil complaint against the seized money. Warren challenged the seizure, and the case appeared headed for trial. But prosecutors eventually backed down after Warren's lawyers presented them with several pieces of exonerating evidence, including text messages with the owner of the truck and financial documents showing his income over the years. In addition to returning all of the seized money, which was $28,180, prosecutors agreed to dismiss the case against him with prejudice, meaning they cannot go after the money at a later date. As part of the deal, Warren agreed not to pursue legal action against the government. It's not clear when the funds will be returned to Warren, but prosecutors said that they will make all the best efforts to do so by Thanksgiving. For his part, Warren said the experience has convinced him to park his money in a bank and never travel with large sums of cash again. He said he now plans to focus on holding vocational Bible classes at his church for young people interested in trucking careers. I want to start educating young men, he said. Not everybody is college material, but having a good trade under your belt, it goes a long way. Which is, that whole last part he said was complete and utter facts. But I think there's a huge lesson to definitely be learned here. One, do not travel with large sums of cash. I don't care who you are. You should never do that. And I think that was one thing that I had said in my first video talking about this, was why did he have that much money on him in the first place? Because $30,000 to be traveling with, that is a lot of money. Second, I think also they realized that they messed up and they said, look, we'll just give you your money back. Just don't go after us in a heavier way. Me, something tells me I probably would have. But then again, knowing them, they probably would have messed something up and tried to not, and I would have been struggling to get that money back. That was about to come my way. It's unfortunate he's going to have to wait to like a later date to actually get the money in his possession. And it's still messed up because it's like he literally needed that money that he did not have for an entire year. So I'm pretty sure it felt like the world was crumbling around him when it came to that whole situation. Imagine you have all your life savings taken from you because a deal fell through and it didn't work for you, only to have it all taken away in one fell swoop. And then a pandemic kicks in right around the corner. Now, one thing, when I said that part, when I said yikes, I don't know what made him slip up and say that he was a police officer. Like, I don't know why he said that, as if that lie was going to fly. But he said he felt like he was under pressure, but still at the same time, I would not, saying I was a police officer would have been the last thing on my mind. For real, because it's not like they wouldn't have been able to find out. But I'm glad that, you know, all's well that ends well and everything's going to work out in his favor. Personally, I would have wanted that money ASAP. Like, I mean, shoot, they took it ASAP. I want it back ASAP. They basically held my money hostage for over a year. So, you know, make that transaction happen as fast as you humanly and possibly can. But one thing we also learned from this, and I think I reiterated it in my other video, is that they're known to do this to a lot of people. They just gave another example with a lady for $80,000. So, and they said it took her about 6 months to get that money back. So they're just known to actually do that. And I'm glad they mentioned the part about the drug residue, because like I said, money passes hands all the time. You probably have drug money in your wallet right now and don't even realize it because it passes so many hands. The only way that a bill is fresh and crisp is when it's getting cut off of that press. And you can feel the texture of a freshly cut bill. It has a certain texture to it versus one that's been passed through so many hands and it's all soggy and whatever the case may be. But I'm glad that he's getting, his funds back. That's the good part about the whole situation. It's just a shame it took over a year for it to happen. But anyway, y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments.